Touring Review, print speaking to the blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast, recorded in the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @QinReview. That is @CuenDreview. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@cuenreview.com. That is INFORMATION @CuenDreview.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
Evening Times, July 6. Lifestyle. Castles, protecting history with science. Report from the Glasgow Science Centre. Scotland has a rich and illustrious past, evidenced by the castles and historic sites that are prevalent across the landscape. They tell stories of lives that were rich and full, of great conflict and battle, and of how far society has changed in terms of engineering and construction. The connection between science and castles may not initially be obvious. In fact, many of us may categorize ourselves as either lovers of history or science. However, a knowledge of science and engineering is crucial to understanding life in times gone by, and how we can protect the remaining artifacts of our history. Construction of castles required comprehension of basic physics principles. Pulley systems were used to lift heavy blocks to height, demonstrating a level of understanding of the forces at play, such as gravity. Many Scottish castles bore the grand structures and truly ingenious feats of engineering. Think of the arches that can often be spotted above a doorway or window, which use physics to provide structural stability. They are created from equally shaped blocks in contact with each other, equally spreading forces acting upon the arch. The final stone to be placed during construction is the keystone, which sits at the top. Without this final piece, the whole thing topples. Science also has had a role in understanding events within historic sites and to uncover the forgotten stories of castle life. After 10 skeletons were uncovered in the 1997 renovations to Stirling Castle, laboratory isotope analysis was crucial in narrowing down their identities. During isotope analysis, the weight of atoms such as carbon and nitrogen is identified. This can give an idea of when and where someone was born and the sort of lifestyle they led. Thanks to this work, it's thought that one of the Stirling Castle 10 might have been Sir John de Strachey, an English knight who was part of forces who took control of Stirling Castle in the 1300s. While castles were built as grand homes and status symbols of the day, they were also designed to be fortifications and protect its inhabitants from attack, either from individuals wielding swords and arrows, or from whole armies lugging catapults and trebuchets, weapons that could bring fear and destruction. However, a truly terrifying weapon was to appear by the 15th century that was to threaten castles in a grave way: cannons. Fueled by gunpowder, these feats of weaponry relied on this chemical mixture to cause an explosion, sending cannonballs hurtling through the air and towards unsuspecting souls within the castle walls. Gunpowder is made up of potassium nitrate, sulfur, and charcoal. It was invented in 10th century China and is thought to have originally been created for medicinal purposes in opposition to its eventual use. The castles that remain today are still at risk of destruction and deterioration, either due to natural processes or those caused by humans. This could be in the form of vandalism or the slow destruction caused by the increasingly extreme weather effects of climate change. Luckily, there are scientists and conservationists who have taken on this challenge. At the sites of historic battles, these scientists have their own arsenal of weapons, small instruments that work in conjunction with their expertise to uncover hidden threats to castles and fortresses across the land. One such instrument is the infrared camera. Conservation scientists can use this technology to find areas of damp or moisture, hidden features, or where heat is being lost within a castle structure. Damp or moisture can cause significant issues for historical buildings, such as mold growing on fabrics and wood. The minerals can also dissolve in the stone walls themselves, weakening the structure and making our beloved castles unstable. A thermal or heat camera detects infrared light which is invisible to the human eye, although we can feel infrared light as heat. Therefore, it is used to visualize hidden moisture, as these areas would appear cooler than their surroundings. Identifying these problem areas allow conservationists to focus their efforts and carry out any necessary preventative work, which is preferable to restoration. Through the collaborative efforts of scientists and conservationists, Scotland's heritage is safeguarded, ensuring that future generations can continue to appreciate and learn from the stories embedded within these magnificent castles. Visitors to Glasgow Science Centre can experience the new Castles Rocky Science Show during the school summer holidays. The show is included with a Science Mall ticket, glasgowsciencecentre.org. And that is a report from the Glasgow Science Centre. Evening Times, July 6. Opinion. George Redmond says, "Let's celebrate 75 years of Labour innovation." Happy birthday to the NHS. 75 years since the concept of a health service that is free at the point of use, that cares for everyone from cradle to the grave. A concept designed, thought up and executed by a Labour government. Care for our most vulnerable and sick must be a main priority for any administration. But sadly it's not the focus for our leaders either here in Glasgow City Council or along the M8 at Holyrood. We all know what their priority is. It was horrifying to learn the shocking statistics this week that there have been 132 deaths of homeless people in Glasgow since 2020, with 51 of them in temporary hostels and hotels. The head of Shelter, a charity for homelessness, pointed out that this was a housing crisis. I could not agree more. People who are vulnerable and need cared for are simply not being looked after properly in our city. Last week I spoke about the cuts that we are seeing, from the fire services to the police force on our streets, to lifeline community facilities that are vital in caring for our citizens. This week I am talking about the real-life difference these cuts actually make. Join the dots. It's not hard. Cutting, slashing, and decimating public funding has a real effect on lives and deaths. It is shameful that Glasgow has a death rate such as this, and the blame solely sits with both the SNP government in Holyrood for constantly underfunding our city and the SNP administration in the city chambers for failing to demand better for our city and use the money they have more wisely. It is awful to think that this constant and continued erosion of our city is being allowed. And it is awful to know that the wonderful National Health Service cannot cope with the pressures put upon it, because within our communities, within our city, people are not the priority. Sadly, we read daily about the horrific waiting lists, the misdiagnoses, and the lengthy ambulance call-out times that people have been using the NHS these days. We read about that alongside the news that doctors, nurses, and healthcare professionals are leaving the service as they are under so much pressure and stress, feeling undervalued, underpaid, and fed up. Who can blame them? Not me. Bizarrely, we also read daily about how an independent Scotland will be able to wave a magic wand and solve these issues. I am yet to be convinced of the argument, yet millions of pounds is being wasted in Scotland to continue to create politics of division, ruin our society, and flatter the most appalling of egos. The achievements of Labour governments are legacies like the NHS, an institution whose concept was to care for and look after our society's most vulnerable. The vision was that people would not be dying on our streets, in substandard homes, and left feeling hopeless. I want a return to those better political ideologies and visions, because they are what makes real differences. The politics that seek to deliver a better and more prosperous future for everyone, in our communities, in our cities, and in our country. So today, as we raise a glass to the NHS, let us celebrate and thank those wonderful staff who look after us, says George Redmond.
From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 7th of July 2023, from the news section, 999 crews on scene after two crashed on same Glasgow street, by Esther Tarnay. 999 crews locked down a Glasgow road following two crashes this morning on the same street. Police and ambulances were called to the Clydeside Expressway this morning after reports of two collisions. The first one took place around 5:20 am and involved one vehicle. Then, around 8 am, officers were alerted of a two-car crash on the same street. Emergency services are still on the scene and the road is blocked. A Police Scotland spokesperson said, around 5:20 am on Friday, July the 7th, 2023, officers received reports of a one-vehicle crash on the A814 Clydeside Expressway. Emergency service attended and recovery was arranged. Around 8 am on Friday, July the 7th, 2023, officers received reports of a two-vehicle crash on the A814 Clydeside Expressway. Emergency services are in attendance, and that report was by Esther Tarnay. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 7th of July 2023, from the news section, exclusive, Glasgow crime, ticketless man threatened Central Station staff. This article was by Esther Tarnay. A man told ScotRail staff, "I'm going to slash you," as he attempted to travel without a ticket. Derry Jackson threatened a supervisor at Glasgow Central Station on February the 17th, 2022. The 21-year-old did not have a ticket and approached the barrier with another man who had a ticket. The pair were challenged by train staff and were told they needed to purchase a ticket if they wished to travel. Unhappy about this, Jackson told the worker, "I'm going to slash you." This was overheard by other members of staff, and he was told he would not be travelling. British Transport Police were contacted. Officers attended and Jackson was pointed out by staff, and he was asked to leave the station, which he complied with. He was then taken to London Road Police Station, where he was cautioned and charged. Jackson, of Paisley, appeared at Glasgow Sheriff Court on Wednesday after previously pleading guilty to behaving in a threatening and abusive manner. His lawyer revealed his client just completed an order imposed by the court. He added, "I've spoken to him and he would comply with a restriction of liberty order. He is suitable for a tag." Sheriff Patricia Price said, "I appreciate you seem to be beginning on a more positive journey. However, you've got a dreadful record for someone so young. There are measures in place to help you turn your life around, but the court still needs to punish you. This is a normal offence for you, which is wrong. This was someone in the course of their employment." Jackson was tagged in order to stay within his home between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. for 14 weeks, as an alternative to custody. And that article was by Esther Tarnay. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 7th of July 2023, from the news section, second burst pipe leaves homes with no water. Report by Esther Tarnay. A second water pipe burst in Glasgow, leaving some residents without water. As we reported yesterday, Scottish Water warned customers about a burst pipe on Cumbernauld Road yesterday, around 11 a.m. This caused water supply issues for some East End citizens. Now, the company has advised that a second fault has been identified on the same street this morning. This is affecting homes in the G33 area. Engineers are on site and working to fix the problem, but, in the meantime, some households may be left without running water. A Scottish Water spokesperson said, "Please be aware that you may experience no water supply or lower intermittent water pressure. You may also experience discoloured water. This is normal after such an incident. Our fact sheet on discoloured water provides information on how to resolve this type of issue. Excavation work will need to take place to expose and repair the damaged water pipe. This will ensure the safety of the public and our team. We apologise to all affected customers for any inconvenience or disruption caused by this incident." And that article was by Esther Tarnay. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 7th of July 2023, from the news section, exclusive: Thug attacked man with metal pole before calling him a dafty. By court reporter. A thug attacked a man with a metal pole and then called him a dafty. Kevin Forsyth, 34, appeared at Glasgow Sheriff Court to be sentenced after previously pleading guilty to repeatedly striking the victim on the head during the incident on July the 11th, 2022. The man was standing at a bus stop on Kellykin Road in Thornley Bank when he spotted Forsyth walking in his direction at 9:30 p.m. He noticed he was in possession of a metal pole. Forsyth, or Thornley Bank, hit the victim twice in the back of the head and once to the side of his face with the item before stating, "That's what you and your brother get for being dafties." He then made his way into a common close. Meanwhile, the victim attended at his mum's home to contact police. Cops attended and observed 3 lacerations on his head and face. Photographs were taken and a blood-stained top was seized. An ambulance was contacted due to his injuries, but the victim refused to stay for the ambulance and refused to be taken to hospital. Police searched the area as well as several homes but could not find Forsyth. 2 days later, he presented himself at Pollock Police Station after being made aware officers were looking to speak to him. He was, thereafter, arrested, cautioned and charged, and released. Sheriff Patricia Price revealed Forsyth as a High Court conviction for severe violence. She added, "He's got quite the record. Why is he still using violence as a means to resolve issues? He served a 66-month sentence. You would think he would have enough rehabilitation to realise violence is not the answer." Forsyth's lawyer replied, "The complainer is the partner of his ex-partner, but that's not an excuse. He had received texts from the complainer that were of a threatening nature. He's managed to hold down employment. He's completed college courses. He's completed unpaid work orders without errors." Sheriff Price said, He had just completed a community payback order for, guess what, an assault, when he committed this offence. The solicitor explained that the victim made threats to put her client's mother's door in. She added, "It happened outside his mother's house. He perceived the threat as a very real threat. He knows what's at stake. He has secure employment and is concerned about losing contact with his son." The sheriff replied, "If someone threatens you, you go to the police. It's not an appropriate way to deal with a threat." She addressed Forsyth and said, "Given your record, you know I'm well within my rights to send you to jail today. Your default position can't be to resort to violence when you receive a threat. You don't take the law into your own hands. Do you think you are presenting a good example to your son? Do you want him to follow in your footsteps? The only reason I'm not sending you to jail today is the fact that you have stability. You need to do some serious work on your problem solving and decision making." He was ordered to be under social work supervision and carry out 300 hours of unpaid work. Forsyth was also tagged and ordered to stay in his home between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. for 12 weeks as a direct alternative to custody. The sheriff added, "Mark my words, if you come before me having breached either of these orders, I will have no hesitation to send you to jail. If you hold your son as close to your heart as you say you do, you need to think of him before committing violence." And that article was written by the court reporter. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 11th of July 2023, from the news section, famous haunted Glasgow site reopens as ghost hunters line up, by Esther Tarnoy. Ghost hunters are eager to visit a newly reopened haunted Glasgow building. Provan Hall House, said to be one of the city's most active sites for paranormal phenomena, now welcomes visitors again, following a transformation. The historic building in Easterhouse was the scene of a double murder when a soldier returned from war after 2 years to find his wife had had a child, according to legend. Enraged, he killed them both, and their ghosts are said to haunt the building to this day. Located in the Seven Lochs Wetland Park, it has undergone a multi-million-pound upgrade into a state-of-the-art visitor centre with interactive exhibits, educational activities, workshops and community events. History and Horrors tours will host a storytelling fright night for up to 20 intrepid ghost hunters aged 12 and above from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Thursday, July 27th. Electromagnetic field meters will be used to detect any unexplained electrical activity, and balls which light up when moved will help detect any otherworldly attendees. Lynn Knight will lead the tour with her husband, Gary. She said, "This is the first ghost walk we've done at Provan Hall, and we're really excited about it. We know a lot of people involved in ghost hunting, and they all say it is a really active site. There are stories about a lot of unexplained phenomena taking place there. Anyone aged 12 plus who's interested in the history of the building or the paranormal should come along. It'll be a fun evening, even if you're sceptical about ghosts. We love it when skeptics come along. They usually end up a lot less sceptical by the end of the ghost walk." Lanarkshire Paranormal have also signed up to lead an adults-only night tour of the building between 9 p.m. on August the 12th into the early hours of the next day. Janice Murdoch-Richard of Lanarkshire Paranormal said, "Provan Hall is a very active paranormal location. It is a known hotspot. We have experienced things that there is no explanation for at that site. Once, we were asked if there was anyone there, and a lace tablecloth floated up into the air and landed on the table. People also talk about feeling touched by someone when there is no one close by, and people have run out of the old dairy screaming because a man's face appeared from nowhere. There has also been sightings of the little boy and his mother who were murdered there. We'll be using dowsing rods and echo boxes to try to pick up spirits' voices. We really can't wait to take people around." And that article was by Esther Tarnoy. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 11th of July 2023 from the news section. Glasgow Muir End woman tells of how she landed dream uni role. Report by Maxine MacArthur. A Southside woman has hailed a volunteer role as a key factor in landing her dream role. Carla Verschuren feared her dreams of becoming a doctor would never be fulfilled after her third application to study medicine was unsuccessful. However, it was fourth time lucky for the 27-year-old, who was finally accepted after taking on a voluntary role as a public partner with the Scottish Medicines Consortium, SMC. In her role, Carla helped to provide a public voice in medicine decision-making, which she credits for giving her the edge over fellow university applicants. Carla, from Muir End, said, "I'm so happy. I had just finished a degree in immunology and received my third unsuccessful application to study medicine when a friend told me that SMC was recruiting for a public partner and I should have a think about it. After looking into it, I felt it was the ideal role for me, so I applied and it's turned out to be one of the best decisions I've ever made. Ultimately, I think it has really made the difference in making my application to study medicine stand out this time. Being a doctor has been a dream for a long time, and I'm really excited that it's finally going to be a reality." SMC is the national source of advice on the clinical and cost effectiveness of new medicines for NHS Scotland, ensuring that people in Scotland have timely access to beneficial new medicines. Carla took on the SMC role 3 years ago, while she was working as a call handler for NHS 24 during the COVID-19 pandemic. The role involves attending the SMC monthly decision-making meetings as part of the voting committee that decides on the availability of new medicines in Scotland. Carla added, "To hear from patient representatives about the impact that illness and disease have on people and their everyday lives has been very insightful. It has given me a much greater understanding of the issues that people can face and the importance and impact that new medicines can have. The post has given me the unique opportunity to listen to patients and carers and allowed me to appreciate the different views people have about what quality of life should mean for them. I was able to reflect on what I've learned with SMC in my interview to study medicine, and I've got no doubt the experience I've had in the role has been hugely beneficial for me." Carla begins the Scottish Graduate Entry Medicine ScotGEM programme, which is designed to develop doctors interested in a career in rural medicine, in September. Her studies will be split between the Universities of St Andrews and Dundee. She explained, "From a young age, I've taken on roles that involve working for and caring for others. I volunteered in a school for children with additional support needs, befriended people with dementia in a local care home, and delivered snacks to patients in wards in a hospital. Being a doctor has been a dream for a long time, and I'm really excited that it's finally going to be a reality. The public partner role at SMC has given me so much to take forward. It's been a challenging and really rewarding experience with supportive and helpful people. I'd encourage anyone interested in the role to go for it if they think it could be for them. SMC is currently recruiting for the public partner role. For more information, go to scottishmedicines.org.uk. That article was written by Maxine MacArthur. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 11th of July 2023, from the news section, Glasgow University staff to be balloted for strike action, by Nicole Mitchell. Staff at 4 universities in Glasgow will be balloted for strike action due to a dispute over pay. Unite has confirmed today that its members employed a number of universities across Scotland will be balloted for strike action due to be unable to reach an agreement on the 2023-24 pay award. The disagreement is part of a national higher education pay dispute, with Unite claiming the vast majority of its members have had an award of 5 to 6% given to them. This follows from an uplift of 3% for the majority of members last year. The members taking part in the action include staff at Glasgow University, Strathclyde University, Glasgow Caledonian University, and Glasgow School of Art. Staff will also be balloted at Aberdeen, Heriot-Watt, Dundee, Abertay, Edinburgh and Edinburgh Napier universities. The ballot in Scotland will run from July the 17th until August the 21st. Sharon Graham, Unite General Secretary, said, "The UCEA, University and Colleges Employers Association, has consistently failed to negotiate an improvement on the offer, and this protracted dispute is the outcome of their inertia in reaching a settlement. This is impacting not only workers but the tens of thousands of students that have been left in the lurch waiting for exam results. University workers went above and beyond during COVID-19, and this is how they're repaid. Unite will stand 100% behind our members for as long as it takes to reach a fair settlement." Alison McLean, Unite Regional Officer, added, "This latest imposition is a further slap in the face for our members across Scotland's universities, when UCEA can clearly afford to pay more. Other unions in the sector are also planning action, so the employers need to take seriously the very real possibility of coordinated strikes taking place at the start of Semester 1 in Scotland. The fault for this lies entirely at UCEA's door. Unite calls on UCEA to get back to the negotiating table. Our members and all university students deserve so much more. A failure to reach an agreement on the 2022-23 award resulted in Unite members taking part in strike action last year." And that article was by Nicole Mitchell. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 11th of September 2023, from the news section, Glasgow's Cumbernauld Road to be shut off for days, amid warning. Report by Maxine MacArthur. A major road which was closed earlier today for emergency works is to remain shut. As previously reported, Cumbernauld Road in Glasgow's East End was closed in the eastbound direction around 8 AM on Tuesday due to a burst water pipe main requiring urgent attention. Glasgow City Council's roads teams have now revealed the work will require the road to be closed in the northbound direction as well, with the closure expected to last until around 6 PM on Saturday, July 15th. Drivers have been warned to avoid the area while Scottish Water carries out the repairs. The council said, "Due to emergency Scottish Water works, it is necessary to close Cumbernauld Road northbound carriageway between Gough Street and Gady Street. Heavy goods vehicles are encouraged to utilise the Pymony diversion route. Delays may be expected." Scottish Water confirmed its engineers will be on site throughout the day, with water supply expected to be affected in G33, G66 and G69. A statement said, "The water supply will gradually return to normal for customers once the repair has been completed. While we carry out the repair, please be aware that you may experience no water supply, low/intermittent pressure, or discoloured water. At present, we expect to complete the repair in a time frame which means we do not plan to provide bottled at distribution locations. Traffic management is in place. Please consider an alternative route if at all possible in order to avoid potential delays to your journey." And that report was by Maxine MacArthur. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 11th of July 2023, from the news section, Hamilton to celebrate first ever Pride with Weekend Festival. A fabulous array of events is set to ring in Pride weekend for the first time ever. South Lanarkshire will host its own inaugural Pride celebration on July the 28th and 29th in Hamilton Town Centre, with the event thought to be the first of its kind in the town. From drag shows and entertainers to colourful street parties, the events, many of which are free to attend, are sure to brighten up the Hamilton skies. Malcolm Thomas Harley, event organiser, said, "Pride is a celebration but also an important movement. Visibility, voice and a platform for our community are key goals of this first Pride in the region. A march isn't part of this first year's plans. Instead, we've designed the event to include a large area to fill in the centre of Hamilton. Because we have this space, we're going to need everyone's support by coming along and helping us fill the streets with love, joy and pride on July the 29th. Bring your pride flags and banners and get set for a great day in support of Pride. We would like to thank Event Scotland and the National Lottery Community Fund for their support. For tickets or more information, go to sllcboxoffice.co.uk. That's sllcboxoffice.co.uk. And that article was unattributed. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 11th of July 2023, from the news section, legendary rapper 50 Cent adds extra Glasgow OVO Hydro date. Article by Maxie MacArthur. Music icon 50 Cent has added an extra date to his Glasgow tour. The legendary rapper is due to perform at the city's OVO Hydro on November the 9th, with fans eagerly anticipating his arrival. However, the West End venue announced today the megastar, whose real name is Curtis James Jackson III, will now return to the Clydeside site just 10 days later after the original date sold out. 50 Cent will perform his The Final Lap tour once more on November the 19th, with Busta Rhymes and Jeremy coming along as special guests. The tour will celebrate 20 years of the incredibly popular Get Rich or Die Trying. The New York-born star, who began his tour in the US last July and has taken it all over North America before reaching Europe, has added another London date as well to cope with the demand. Taking to Twitter as he announced the tour, he said, "You've waited long enough." The Final Lap tour celebrating Get Rich or Die Trying 20 years later, with special guest and longtime friend Busta Rhymes across all dates, and Jeremy on all North American dates, is coming your way in 2023. I'm hitting the globe in this one, making stops across North America and Europe, including Toronto, Brooklyn, Atlanta, Houston, Amsterdam, Oslo, Paris, and many more. Additional markets and special guests to be announced soon. Tickets will go on sale later this week. And that article was written by Maxie MacArthur and read by me, Ian. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 11th of July 2023, news. Man arrested after police incident on Glasgow Ingram Street, by Marissa McWhirter. A man has been arrested after a police incident in the city centre. 999 crews were called to Ingram Street at around 11:40 p.m. on Monday night, following reports of a disturbance. A 22-year-old man was arrested and charged in connection with the alleged incident. He is due in Glasgow Sheriff Court today, July the 11th, and the report will be sent to the Procurator Fiscal. The nature of the disturbance was not revealed by the force. A spokesperson for Police Scotland said, at around 11:40 p.m. on Monday, July the 10th, 2023, police received a report of a disturbance in Ingram Street, Glasgow. Officers attended and a 20-year-old man was arrested and charged in connection with the incident. He is due to appear at the Glasgow Sheriff Court on Tuesday, 11th of July 2023, and a report will be sent to the Procurator Fiscal, and that report was by Marissa McWhirter. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 11th of July 2023, news. Renfrew and Glasgow homes suffer power outage. Report by Taylor Murray. Residents in Renfrew and surrounding areas are without power as a timeline is given before it will be restored. The power outage is affecting homes and businesses in postcode areas G1, G72 and PA4, with the problem first reported at 9:20 am on Tuesday, July 11th. The Scottish and Southern Electricity Networks have notified that they are actively on the scene to fix the problem, with power estimated to be restored at 12:30 p.m. the same day. In a statement on their website, they said, "We're sorry for the loss of supply. We currently have a fault affecting the areas listed. Our engineers are on site working hard to get the power back on as quickly as they can. If you need more information, please call us on 105 or send us a message on Facebook or Twitter @SSEN community and quote reference MC6070. And that report was by Taylor Murray.
This is from the Glasgow Times on the 12th of July 2023 from the news section, and the headline reads, Council to remain in charge of staff and services under care reforms. This article was by a Glasgow Times reporter. Councils will continue to be in charge of delivering care services and employing staff under plans for Scotland's new National Care Service, or NCS. The Scottish Government has delayed legislation to create the service until after the summer, using the parliamentary recess to engage with stakeholders. But broadly, the NCS was hailed by the Scottish Government as a way of increasing accountability for social care, with ministers being ultimately responsible for services. In January, local authority body COSLA described the NCS as a distraction, urging the Scottish Government to instead focus on properly resourcing councils to deliver the services. But on Wednesday, the Scottish Government announced it had reached a partnership deal with COSLA and the NHS for the service. Under the terms of the agreement, legal responsibility will be shared between the Health Service, councils and the Scottish Government. The Scottish Government has been working closely with local government to find a consensus on the National Care Service Scotland Bill, which will allow us to deliver on the urgent improvements needed to strengthen the delivery of integrated health and social care for people, said Social Care Minister Marie Todd. This partnership between the Scottish Government, local government and the NHS helps establish where responsibility for people's care will sit under the National Care Service. The detail of how this will work at a local level will be developed in the coming months, and we will continue to update Parliament on this work, along with the results of our ongoing co-design events taking place across the country after the summer recess. Paul Kelly, the Health and Social Care spokesman at COSLA, who described the NCS as a distraction earlier this year, said further improving the experiences of people accessing and working in social care and social work services must rest on an effective partnership between Scottish Government and local government. Combining shared national accountability with local expertise ensures the right balance of further improvement across Scotland, whilst rightly reflecting the diverse needs of local communities. We know, too, that successful change is driven by the valuable staff who deliver services. We hope by setting out the continued role of local authorities in delivering social care and more social work functions, and staff remaining employed within councils, we offer comfort and stability to the local government workforce. But Mr Kelly conceded that there was more to do in the design of the service, adding, as we progress forward, we are committed to continuing to work closely with people in receipt of support and partners to design a system that ensures individuals and communities always experience high quality care and support. This article was by a Glasgow Times reporter. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 12th of July 2023 from the news section, and the headline reads, Glasgow nightclub Clatty Pats revived in Webster's Theatre show. This article was by Marissa McWhirter. At Webster's Theatre, just 5 minutes walk from the original venue, legendary nightclub Cleopatra's will be brought back to life in an incredible show. Clatty Pats Walk Like a Glaswegian is back by popular demand for one more weekend of laughter, memories and madness. The disco, affectionately dubbed Clatty Pats, was frequented by student nurses and doctors from around the world who are training or living in the West End during its run from the 1980s to the early 2000s. The venue has since been transformed into Kitty O'Shea's. Paul Moore, who has been writing and directing plays for 40 years, dreamt up the show as a way to give audiences a damn good night out. He said, Cleopatra's Clatty Pats is a phrase synonymous with Glaswegians of a certain age. It was an iconic feel-good Glasgow nightclub. The Thursday night became famous and known as Doctors and Nurses Night. It gained a reputation very quickly for being a very wild night where you would go after a long shift and just let your hair down and get your scrubs off. He added, back then the club was also a meeting point for the burgeoning Glasgow music scene. It was really kicking off back then. There were lots of different stars aligning in this small club. The play tells the story of 4 nurses who reunite after 30 years to revisit their halcyon days on Great Western Road in the 1980s, because they've been carrying around a dirty little secret from their nights at the club. When the original club owners found out Paul was working on the show, they reached out to share with him a few gems of information from back then. Paul said, "It's really quite an absurd plot, but it's actually based on fact. It was a story that was put into my ears when I first approached the show, and I embellished it quite heavily." The club was affectionately dubbed Clatty Pats because of the unforgettable sticky carpet, which Paul had revealed had originally set the owners back by thousands of pounds. He said they spent an absolute fortune on outfitting of the club. Most significantly, the carpet, which was bespoke, hand-dyed, and cost them thousands upon thousands. It had these Egyptian Cleopatra-style motifs, but I think within 2 years you couldn't see the carpet for the dirt, hence the name Clatty Pats. Those who remember the club will fondly recall the venue's dedication to the Egyptian theme, and the production has brought back the famous camel. Paul said the lifelike stuffed camel in the club is where a lot of girls and boys would get familiar with each other. In the first run, it was all camel talk. The camel was very significant for so many people, and everyone got the metaphor and the motif throughout the show. Paul decided to bring the production back for another stint after the first run in April sold out in a week. It drew hordes of NHS workers who flocked to the show to celebrate reunions with fellow nurses and doctors. Paul said, "We added on 3 extra shows, and those tickets disappeared in a day, so that was saying something about how people wanted to reconnect and remember those heady days of back then. It was a beautiful experience. I was standing at the door as audience members were coming in, just to witness people see people they hadn't seen in 30 years. It was just a wonderful thing. Audiences are encouraged to sing along and make believe they are back in the club once again. It's a naughty and nice, laugh-out-loud experience from start to finish," says Paul. He added that it's like being at the theatre and at the nightclub at the same time. "I want audiences to let their hair down. If you want to go and get a drink, go and get a drink. It's like being at a gig." Clatty Pat's Walk Like a Glaswegian is on at Webster's Theatre on Great Western Road from Friday 21st of July until Sunday 23rd of July. This article was by Marissa McWhirter. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 12th of July 2023 from the news section, and the headline reads, "Man accused of Rafał Michał murder refused bail." This report is by Connor Gordon. A man due to stand trial for murder had a bail application refused by a judge. Darren Owen, 23, and 3 others are alleged to have gone on a 7-month crime spree. Owen is accused of killing Rafał Michał, 36, in Blantyre, South Lanarkshire, in February 2019. Owen and co-accused Thomas Wilson, 26, allegedly shot Mr. Lyko on the head. The Polish international's body is said to have been found in a burned-out car. Barry Harvey and Thomas Guthrie are also charged with 2 kill bids. It's claimed Harvey, 35, killed gym boss Gary Moore, 32, by shooting him in Airdrie in September 2018 and torched a car in a bid to dodge justice. He's also accused of a 2018 attempted murder in Glasgow of lawyer Joe Shields, who died in February at 68 in unrelated circumstances. He is accused of striking Mr. Shields on the head and body with a knife or similar instrument to his severe injury, permanent disfigurement, and to the danger of his life. Harvey faces a further claim that he tried to murder Scott Bennett, 42, by shooting him in December 2018. It's alleged Harvey, Guthrie and Owen blasted him in the head in a vet's car park in East Kilbride. Prosecutors also alleged that Harvey dealt cocaine assaulted Guthrie with a bottle and hammer and got a driving licence by fraud. Guthrie, 27, is also accused of involvement in murder bids on Mr. Shields and Mr. Bennett. The men face a total of 15 charges at a trial in November this year. Owen appeared virtually on July 12th at the High Court in Glasgow, requesting bail before the trial. Graham Brown, defending, told the court there has been a material change in circumstances. Mr. Brown stated that his client would be remanded for the equivalent of 1 year and 5.5 months before the trial. He said, "This is more significant because of his age and he has 2 young children." The lawyer also stated concerns of Owen's mental health. He stated that Owen's cousin, his former guardian, was concerned about his presentation and informed the prison. Mr. Brown added, "On this occasion, nothing has been done. He will be in the system somewhere, but he hasn't been seen by anyone." Prosecutor Lorraine McQuillan asked the judge to refuse Owen bail. She stated that there was insufficient information in the application to allow for bail to be granted. Judge Andrew Miller refused the motion for bail, agreeing that there was not enough information to prove a material change in circumstances. He said, "This is not a case in which it would be said that any custodial sentence, in the event of a conviction, will be swallowed up by a period on remand." Having regard to the gravity of the charges against Mr. Owen, the length and period of the remand does not give rise to a material change in circumstances or amount to material information with regards to bail. This article is by Connor Gordon. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 12th of July 2023 from the news section, and the headline reads, "Police provide update on trafficking investigation into Stagecoach." This report was by a Glasgow Times reporter. Police investigating Stagecoach founder Dame Anne Gloag and others in connection with an investigation into human trafficking allegations have submitted a report to prosecutors. Police Scotland confirmed in January that 4 people had been charged following an investigation into alleged human trafficking and immigration offences. At the time, a spokesperson for Dame Anne said she strongly disputes the malicious allegations made against her foundation and members of her family. The Force said on Wednesday that a report has now been sent to prosecutors. A Police Scotland spokesperson said, "On Thursday, January the 19th, 2023, 4 individuals were charged in connection with an investigation into alleged human trafficking and immigration offences. A report has been sent to the Procurator Fiscal. The Crown Office has confirmed that it has received the report from the police." A Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal spokesman said, "Careful consideration is given to any reports of alleged criminal conduct which are submitted by the police or any other specialist reporting agency to the Procurator Fiscal. Criminal proceedings will be raised if such reports contain sufficient evidence and if it is appropriate and in the public interest to do so." In January, a spokesperson for Dame Anne said, "Whilst we cannot comment on the details of an ongoing investigation, Dame Anne Gloag strongly disputes the malicious allegations that have been made against her, her foundation and the members of her family, and will vigorously defend herself and the work of her foundation to protect her legacy and continue her work helping thousands of people in the UK and abroad every year." A spokeswoman for Dame Anne declined to comment on the latest development. Dame Anne co-founded the Stagecoach Bus Company in 1980 with her brother Brian Sodhill, and was made a dame for her business and charity work. The company is the UK's biggest bus and coach operator and is now managed by DWS Infrastructure. The Gloag Foundation is a charitable trust set up by Dame Anne, which works to support projects that prevent or relieve poverty and encourage the advancement of education, health and religion in the UK and overseas, according to its website. This article was by a Glasgow Times reporter. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 12th of July 2023 from the news section, and the headline reads, "Work starts on Glasgow's new Bath Street student flats." This article is by Maxine MacArthur. The ground has been broken on a new student accommodation development in the city centre. Works are now underway on IQ student accommodation, purpose-built development on Bath Street, with members of the project team taking part in an official ceremony last week. The complex at 225 Bath Street will replace a vacant 1970s office block, which has now been demolished. Delivered by contractor Graham and designed by Glasgow-based architect Cooper Crowmar, it will create 551 bedrooms across 12 stories. Due for completion in 2025, students are said to benefit from luxury communal amenities, including a gym, a gaming arcade, dining spaces and social areas, set across 16,390 square feet. The new complex sits adjacent to an existing IQ student accommodation block at Elgin Place, which includes 323 beds, also delivered by Graham. The new design will complement the wider streetscape with a glazed frontage, and IQ student accommodation will offer a variety of tenures, allowing students to choose the block they live in. Piling operations have now commenced and will be followed by 2 months of groundwork. 2 tower cranes will be erected on site in September, with the core construction anticipated to take 2 months and the concrete frame to follow. Gary Holmes, Regional Managing Director at Graham Building North, said, "We're excited to continue our excellent relationship with IQ student accommodation team through the delivery of further much-needed student residences within Glasgow city centre. This is a particularly important project with demand continuing to outstrip supply. Now that Graham is on site, our team look forward to bringing the development out of the ground and creating high-quality accommodation and amenities for students in Glasgow. We are keen to support wider regeneration efforts in the city, helping to retain its reputation as an attractive destination for both local and international students." This article was by Maxine MacArthur.
Evening Times, July 12. Opinion. Susan Aiken, leader of Glasgow City Council, says, "Closing homeless hotel is a step forward for Glasgow." When the SNP formed Glasgow's city government in 2017, we inherited a homelessness service in crisis, failing to meet its statutory duties towards homeless people and censured by Scotland's housing regulator. Turning that service around was a priority for us, and although it was a long and difficult task, Glasgow's homelessness services now are unrecognisable from those of 6 years ago. Strong partnership working with colleagues in the third sector has led to street homelessness being dramatically reduced, regularly to single figures. But our homelessness services are under the greatest pressure they've faced in years. One of the less discussed consequences of the cost of living crisis is a very significant increase in the numbers of households requesting homelessness advice and assistance, with 2,000 more in 22-23 than the previous year. Our investment in homelessness prevention work means that fewer of those approaches have actually turned into formal homeless applications, but nonetheless the huge pressures on households are translating into equally large pressures on services. A consequence of that is there are too many people in Glasgow living for too long in temporary accommodation. Our ambition is to reduce time spent in temporary accommodation and eradicate the use of bed and breakfast accommodation. That is unquestionably being made harder by the context we're working in just now. But just because times are hard does not mean we shouldn't keep pushing for progress. Following the successful closure of the Belgrove Hotel, that's why the announcement that Glasgow's Health and Social Care Partnership is decommissioning a further bed and breakfast that's long been used as temporary homeless accommodation is an important one. Far from the problem that some have painted it as, this is in fact a step forward in pursuing our aim of all homeless people in Glasgow being provided with settled permanent accommodation as quickly as possible. If we just keep doing the same things, we won't ever make the progress we want. We turned around the failing homelessness services of the past by working differently, and that's what we need to do again in response to these new pressures. A hotel is not a home, and a decent home is what you want everyone to have. Political leadership is about delivering, and the SNP city government will fight for every penny we need to deliver for Glasgow. We have never shied away from demanding the resources and powers required to address disadvantage in our communities and to unlock the potential of the city economy. From the failure of successive Westminster policy agendas to our frustrations at the funding that Glasgow receives from the Scottish Government to deliver services, we make sure the city's voice is heard. But we don't criticise for the sake of cheap politicking. Sound bites and gestures don't improve lives, and Glasgow's well-being and prosperity is too important. Instead, when Glasgow has been shortchanged by government, we make the case for how this can be rectified. Since my last column, the Glasgow City region has been announced as one of 2 Scottish areas selected by the Scottish and UK governments as an investment zone. This means that we will receive £80 million over 5 years to help build on our economic potential, to stimulate business growth, and to create more good quality, well-paid jobs. The investment zones are the result of years of hard work in promoting the Glasgow City region as a centre of innovation and investment, of building up our UK and international reputation instead of knocking it down, and of putting the effort into building meaningful partnerships across the public, private and academic sectors. It's also what comes when we continue to make the constructive case for Glasgow and our city region to government. Earlier this year, we suffered 2 significant setbacks. The UK government's levelling up agenda failed to live up to any of its promises, with a last-minute rule change shutting out communities in Glasgow where the need for actual levelling up is deeper and more acute than practically anywhere else in Britain. Similarly, the decision to locate new green freeports on the east coast placed Glasgow and the west of Scotland at risk of further significant social and economic disadvantage. I did not hide my anger at how badly Glasgow was let down by these decisions, but I also made the case to both the Scottish and UK governments that they needed to invest in and empower metropolitan Glasgow. I pointed to our proven track record in delivering projects with real social, economic and regeneration outcomes, and that rather than rolling back on the progress of recent years, they should build on opportunities. We may have significant generational disadvantage to address, but the success of the Glasgow City region is pivotal to Scotland's and the UK's economic success. I am delighted that the decision by both governments reflects the case we made for Glasgow, including not only our economic potential and the strength of emerging high-tech sectors and our universities and colleges, but also our commitment to an inclusive economy that prioritises people. I was particularly pleased to see Scotland's Wellbeing Economy Secretary, Neil Gray, make specific reference to our communities benefiting and the importance of not only high-quality jobs, but also fair work practices and payment of the living wage. Our economy can only work when it works for people. In the months ahead, council leaders from across the city region, businesses, universities and government will work together to shape the investment zone. And in doing that, your city government will continue to ensure we deliver for Glasgow's people, says Susan Aiken, leader of Glasgow City Council. Evening Times, July 11. Opinion. Annie Wells says, an investment zone is what we need. I was absolutely delighted with the recent news that Glasgow, and the city region as a whole, will be home to one of two new investment zones. Alongside Aberdeen, our city was chosen as a result of a joint partnership between the UK and Scottish governments to receive £80 million worth of funding over the next 5 years. This is a massive economic boost for Glasgow during a time when we are facing huge economic challenges. The UK government's levelling up strategy is one that I am fully supportive of, and is one that is already delivering for our city, with £13 million invested in the refurbishment of Pollock Stables and a further £100,000 invested through the Community Ownership Fund in supporting Langside Sports Club. As a Glasgow MSP, I will be continuing to lobby at every turn for further such opportunities to come to the city, to boost our infrastructure and regenerate our communities. The investment zone will bring more high-skilled jobs and future opportunities for Glaswegians and incentives for people to make our wonderful city their home. The zones are also backed up by tax breaks, meaning Glasgow will be an attractive place to invest. As technology continues to develop, it is extremely welcome that the investment zones have such a focus on industries of the future. These include our university sector, of which Glasgow is home to so many world-leading institutions who are developing the highly skilled workforce of the future. The £80 million worth of investment will also boost our creative industries, our green sector, and the ever-growing technology industry. As UK Government Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove rightly pointed out, Glasgow has a rich history of being an economic powerhouse. With this funding, our communities can be at the heart of another economic revolution fit for the 21st century. This investment is a prime example of what can be achieved for Glasgow and other places across Scotland when both of our governments work constructively together and focus on the issues that really matter to people. Instead of the Scottish Government continuing with their relentless push for another divisive independence referendum, it was refreshing that senior figures within the Scottish Government engaged positively with their counterparts in the UK Government to get this deal over the line. Strengthening our economy and putting measures in place to bring new jobs to Glasgow is exactly one of the priorities Glaswegians want our governments to be focused on right now, especially as they continue to grapple with a cost of living crisis. While concrete proposals are still to be developed, this is a really exciting time for our region, and a welcome shot in the arm after Clyde missed out earlier this year on being named one of the two free ports by the Scottish and UK governments. I will be closely monitoring details of the projects that are brought forward by industry leaders, the council and businesses to ensure Glasgow and the surrounding area fully reaps the rewards of being chosen as one of Scotland's first 2 investment zones. With the Scottish Parliament now in summer recess, it presents an ideal opportunity for me to get out and about more in Glasgow. I will be spending the next few weeks doing just that, holding local surgeries where anyone can come along to raise any issue they feel I can help them on. I am also busy arranging visits to many of our local businesses and organisations, carrying out so much wonderful work every single day, which often goes unnoticed. If you are keen for me to pay a visit to your business or organisation, then do not hesitate to contact my office, and hopefully we can get a date in the diary. And while I will be busy engaging across the city, I will be also making sure I use this period to enjoy some downtime after what has felt like another relentless period in Scottish politics. I will particularly love spending time with my 2 gorgeous grandsons, Noah and Freddie. They are growing up so fast and are an absolute bundle of joy. Spending time with them always reminds me of what is truly important, when often you can get caught up in trivial matters in the rough and tumble of the Parliament. I hope everyone gets some time to recharge over the summer with their families, and I'll see you again in a fortnight for this column, says Annie Wells. Evening Times, July 12. Lifestyle. Glasgow nightclub Clatty Pat's revived in Webster's Theatre show. Report by Marissa McWhirter. At Webster's Theatre, just 5 minutes walk from the original venue, legendary nightclub Cleopatra's will be brought back to life in an incredible show. Clatty Pat's, Walk Like a Glaswegian, is backed by popular demand for one more weekend of laughter, memories and madness. The disco, affectionately dubbed Clatty Pat's, was frequented by student nurses and doctors from around the world who were training or living in the West End during its run from the 1980s to the early 2000s. The venue has since been transformed into Kitty O'Shea's. Paul Moore, who has been writing and directing plays for 40 years, dreamt up the show as a way to give audiences a damn good night's out. He said, Cleopatra's, Clatty Pat's, is a phrase synonymous with Glaswegians of a certain age. It was an iconic feel-good Glasgow nightclub. The Thursday night became famous and known as the Doctor and Nurses Night. It gained a reputation very quickly for being a very wild night where you would go after a long shift and just let your hair down and get your scrubs off. Back then the club was also a meeting point for the burgeoning Glasgow music scene. It was really kicking off back then. There were lots of different stars aligning in this small club. The play tells the story of 4 nurses who reunite after 30 years to revisit their halcyon days on Great Western Road in the 1980s, because they've been carrying around a dirty little secret from their nights at the club. When the original club owners found out Paul was working on the show, they reached out to share with him a few gems of information from back then. And Paul said, "It's really quite an absurd plot, but it's actually based on fact. It was a story that was put into my ears when I first approached the show, and I embellished it quite heavily." The club was affectionately dubbed Clatty Pat's because of the unforgettable sticky carpet, which Paul revealed had originally set the owners back by thousands of pounds. He said, they spent an absolute fortune on the outfitting of the club, most significantly the carpet, which was bespoke, hand-dyed, and cost them thousands upon thousands. It had these Egyptian Cleopatra-style motifs, but I think within 2 years you couldn't see the carpet for the dirt, hence the name Clatty Pats. Those who remember the club will fondly recall the venue's dedication to the Egyptian theme, and the production has brought back the famous camel. Paul said, the lifelike stuffed camel in the club is where a lot of girls and boys would get familiar with each other. In the first run, it was all camel talk. The camel was very significant for so many people, and everyone got the metaphor and the motif throughout the show. Paul decided to bring the production back for another stint after the first run in April sold out in a week. It drew hordes of NHS workers who flocked to the show to celebrate reunions with fellow nurses and doctors. Paul said, we added on 3 extra shows and those tickets disappeared in a day. So that was saying something about how people wanted to reconnect and remember those heady days of back then. It was a beautiful experience. I was standing at the door as audience members were coming in, and just to witness people see people they hadn't seen in 30 years, it was just a wonderful thing. Audiences are encouraged to sing along and make believe they're back in the club once again. And says Paul, it's naughty and nice, laugh out loud experience from start to finish. It's like being at the theatre and at the nightclub at the same time. I want audiences to let their hair down. If you want to go and get a drink, go and get a drink. It's like being at a gig. Report by Marisa McWhitter.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q and Review and to tell your friends about our service.